you think, you panelists think, that we need to have, as we have the United Nations for political processes on an international level, do we need to have a United Nations of technology that will hold technology to account and be sure that it does not exceed its essential purposes? Anybody who wants to answer?
Sounds we're willing.
Oh, we probably need a giant IT department.
Yeah, I think we need to define technology before we can set that up. I mean, there's already groups of the UN that deal with internet governance, and there's things like ICANN, which again, that's another conversation. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think in order to answer that question, maybe
let's say, for instance, the current panel that exists or the current committees that exist at the United Nations, what is their impact actually on the Google appropriation of all the world's literature, for instance? I mean, how are they having any impact whatsoever on Silicon Valley? None.
Well, there.
That one could debate the UN's effectiveness indeed on any platform. So I don't know why the United Nations of internet monitoring would be. I mean, you know, then maybe with their help, the internet would become as peaceful as South Africa on a good day. As with the United Nations, I think that what tends to happen is that the biggest gorilla gets what it wants. And I, for instance, would add a footnote to the footnote of the story of 1984, because to say, well, it was the publisher who was complaining, and so thus Amazon did the right thing, however clumsily. Well, it's because it was a large publisher. And when Amazon gets larger than the largest publisher, they won't listen to Amazon anymore. I was until recently published by HarperCollins, not a small publisher. And HarperCollins could demand all sorts of things from all sorts of smaller entities. And then for a Lemony Snicket, for our volume of Series of Unfortunate Events, there was a laydown date, meaning that no copy of a new volume could be sold until the big celebration that happened at midnight. Walmart put it on sale 3 days beforehand for cheaper. HarperCollins indicated their dismay. Walmart apologized very nicely and did it again the following year. I don't think the UN would have stopped Walmart. It would be a fun match to watch, but I think they would win. The Justice League maybe could be of assistance, but I think that what is scary is always how the juggernaut behaves, and I believe in subversiveness to overcome it, because I think that helps great things squeak by. But I don't. But I think the reality of it is that a UN for technology would behave like the UN. And last I noticed, the UN had not made the world a safe and just place for everyone.
But also, even, I was going to say, just to add to that, I mean, the UN example is interesting because what we've been talking about here are two really kind of different issues. One is the issue of economics around publishing, which is kind of what you're concerned about with Google Books, is that Google Books is removing authors' incentives to write because maybe they're making their books available for free or something like that, versus the other issues that I raised and that Alan raised a little bit, which has to do with surveillance online and ways in which people's activities online are being monitored. And that's a government issue. That's the kind of thing where if you want to bring a lawsuit, the government gets involved. The stuff around Google and market incentives for writing, I mean, I think that's a different question, and I think we have to separate them and not say, like, is the UN going to come in and rescue us from what's essentially a market problem?
I'm not suggesting that the UN per se is the body that we need to turn to, but I'm proposing that we might want to consider the organization of an independent body comprised of member nations that would hold the field of high tech to account, and that would articulate certain ethical parameters that you cannot cross. And I'm not talking about content, I'm talking about appropriation of content. I'm talking about exactly what you just mentioned, the the monitoring of our activities on the internet. I mean, I ask you, is there no one here in this audience who Googles something and then wonders, wow, I wonder who's going to look at that, who's going to know I put that in there? I was curious about this. You know, it's creating a culture of second guessing. It's creating a culture of private fear. Is there anyone in this audience that does not have that experience? I'm curious to know, because we all know that somebody out there is watching this stuff. Somebody out there has a record of this stuff.
So I'm trying to get my head around what you're talking about, and it sounds like you're saying there's a multinational body of some kind that will be authorized somehow by the governments of the world, or which presumably, at least in some cases, represent the peoples of the world, to hold the high-tech industry to account for its ethics. Is that, or for its behavior, or for its...
Or how it uses this material, what it does with this material. For instance, where does all this material, where are the repositories of all this material?
But I think this is a grand idea, and what I want to suggest is, why are you limiting it to high tech? What we need is this grand body that will hold all industries to ethical account. When I think about this, I was reading today about the 25th anniversary of Bhopal. I read a really disturbing op-ed piece on the New York Times op-ed page, which told me that the Bhopal site has still not been cleaned up. Shall we hold Union Carbide to account? That, to me, personally, is far more pressing and urgent than the moral ambiguities of Google, which, to me, Google offers me many wonderful things in my daily life. It is a highly useful, valuable thing, and it is also doing some things that concern me and distress me.
You're willing to exchange your personal, private, human freedom in exchange for these conveniences offered by
Excuse
Google?
me, I'm not exchanging any
It
personal
sounds like
private
that to me.
freedom.
It sounds like that exactly.
No, I'm exchanging certain information that all, if I search and I know exactly what Google is doing with that search.
But
I
isn't
can
that
tell you what
precisely
Google
the
is.
devil's bargain that we're striking with high tech, that we are exchanging for the sake of convenience our personal freedoms, our human integrity?
There are devil's bargains, but I don't feel that this is one of them, no, because I don't see what freedom I'm giving up. I actually see with Google...
How about the freedom not to be monitored?
Google is not monitoring me. I don't have to use Google if I don't want Google to use my search results, which are not tied to my name in any way, to feed advertisements to me that I will ignore. I mean, my freedom is far more encroached upon by any number of institutions in my life. Google is at the bottom of the list.
Brenda,
I'm
your thought.
suing Google.
Yeah, Brenda's suing Google. Let's hear what Brenda
I'm suing Google.